had to delete that other one to start over. I shouldn't have limited myself to. I shouldn't have titled it like that. I made that title right before I started speaking, and then when I was finna start speaking, a woman walked up, and me and her spoke for about 5 minutes, and I forgot exactly what I was gonna speak on at the very beginning. So let me start over. I'm doing these lives and speaking more often because I want to try to communicate some of my personal beliefs and some of my personal stances. I want to try to communicate and try to break the barriers to get people to understand some of the issues, some of the reasoning and purposes for actions around issues. So I'm going to do my best as I can throughout the spring and throughout the summer of making lives and just having not just a stream of consciousness of my thoughts on ideological beliefs, but having a stream of consciousness on my thoughts on actions and things that's going on in the city and current events in the city and where things stand at in the city. So let me start with this. I think that the election is coming up. From everything that I understand, the mayor's running unopposed, and even if he wasn't running unopposed, whoever was going to be opposing him was going to lose. He was going to win this next term. I think that is very telling that even with the understanding that he has almost a guaranteed next 8 years in office, that he has been very slow to act when it comes to issues of generational racism, when it comes to issues of generational poverty, when it comes to issues of generational disenfranchisement and generational marginalizement. I believe that a greater politician, or maybe just a politician with more moral integrity, would have last spring, when the George Floyd protests were going on, would have took that as an opportunity to try to get some changes for root causes that people may not have been paying attention to beforehand and may not pay attention to again. I think that I want to make sure this piece is in the background. I think that there would have been very little pushback, and even if it would have been pushback, it wouldn't have been any kind of legitimate pushback. I think that the fact that when somebody actually got shot in this city and got shot in the back in this city, the fact that the mayor never had a press conference and spoke on that young man being shot, that the mayor never spoke on the hypocrisies that came out throughout the press releases surrounding Tyrus Jones being shot. The fact that he didn't do none of it, the fact that he never took some type of higher moral conscious level, some type of higher integrity level to try to push the community and the society into a better place, speaks a lot about, I think this car from the guy. It speaks a lot about, where we stand. It speaks a lot about where the mayor stands in his ideology and his belief patterns. I think that he doesn't believe that some of these issues exist. I think that he doesn't believe that some of these issues that do exist, that they are prevalent enough and are important enough to put an exuberant amount of leverage and force behind changing them. I think that the mayor, just like a lot of other people in positions of power in the city, are okay with the status quo and are okay with drugs being sold in the places that drugs are sold at, are okay with people being shot in the areas that people are being shot at, are okay with crime being heavy in the areas that crime are being heavy at, because there's very small benefits that they get from changing those things. As a lot of the issues that we talk about and a lot of these issues that we out here speaking on, these are not issues that affect the predominant amount of people in the city, or the predominant amount of people in the nation. It's the fact that oppressive things only affect the minority. That's how they succeed. If they affected the majority, then they wouldn't last long, because the majority of people will rise up and stop it from continuing to happen. And so last year, the amount of murders that took place and the amount of gun violence that took place is a symptom of the deprivation of resources in areas of the city. It's a symptom of the deprivation of opportunity from areas in the city, the deprivation of opportunities from communities in the city. And these aren't things that took place over 5 weeks or 5 months or 5 years or even 10 years or 15 years. These are things that have been happening for 30 and 40 and 50 and 60 years. And and these things happen consciously and purposefully, and it's going to take purposeful and conscious action to reverse these things and to get these things fixed. It was purposeful and conscious action that led to unequal treatment and unequal life and unequal freedoms and unequal liberties. And it's going to take conscience and purposeful action to get equity. And we got to we can't even think about getting to equality until we get to equity. And in my opinion, part of getting to equality and getting to equity is getting to a place where it matter when a young man get beat up by the police department. That's some of the smallest things. When when it matter when a young man gets shot by the police department. Those is the small things. It's some kids that that's been involved with some of the protests. Some younger kids that come around, some teenagers. They was telling me about some interactions that they had in school. They was telling me about being in middle school. They in middle school. They was at school and they got into an argument with a teacher. With like middle school kids do, and it's a young black kids, and they saying that in the midst of arguing with the teacher, they they said nigga, don't talk to me like that, nigga. And the teacher says back to him, lifts up his sleeve and says, you see me, I'm not nigger. I'm not nigger. And then, when they saying you can't say that, and they go and this is an assistant principal saying this to these kids. They go and another assistant principal who's black. This was a white assistant principal who said this to him initially. An assistant principal who's black speaking to these kids, and I'm gonna get to my point with saying the story. An assistant principal who's black speaking to these kids, and they telling this assistant principal what happened and about this other principal saying nigger to him and saying I'm not nigger. And the black assistant principal says to him, well, that's why I told y'all not to say that word. When y'all say that word, you make it okay for them to say that word or for him to say that word. In that moment, that was the lesson. That's who she just thought needed to be taught a lesson in that moment was those children. This was a black woman. And that's I talked to the kids about this, and I asked them if they told their parents about this, and if they said something else to the main principal about this, what they doing about it. And they said they ain't nothing. They don't feel like nobody would care. Times that they done spoke to people about this before, people done made it seem as if they don't really care about it. Authority figures, don't, this isn't something that they think is a prevalent issue. They saying that they done dealt with, this assistant principal being racist or bigoted and prejudiced multiple times, and that's what it means when people say things like Black Lives Matter. That's what it means when people say things like no lives can matter to Black Lives Matter. It's because the amount of small microaggressions that you become institutionalized and become regularized to you when you black, it gets you to a point where you feel like certain things don't matter when they happen to you when you black. I don't think that it's coincidental that the most two recent people that have been assaulted by the police department in this city, one of them was black and one of them was white. The person who was white, all the charges have been dropped from that person. The officer who assaulted that person had charges pressed on them initially for a little bit before those charges did get eventually dropped, as opposed to the black man who sat in jail for a month and a half till bail could be got. Who still is facing charges from what happened to him, and who no penalty happened to the officer at all. Nothing happened to the officers. They done kept going about their day. kept going about they life, they work. No suspension or nothing, no reprimand, nothing, which has been too common of a story here in this city. It's been too common of a story for police officers to assault somebody or to beat somebody or pepper spray somebody or tase somebody or falsely arrest somebody and nothing happening from it, which is another sign that black lives don't matter, which is another sign of middle class lives, or of working class lives and middle class lives, but of working class lives and of lives of poor people not mattering. If you can't afford to get you a civil attorney that can sue the city and make you some money, then your life don't matter. Then what happens to you don't matter. And that's been a common thing that that's been a common point of contention with people, is people coming out here with this all lives matter mentality, or I support you but I don't support Black Lives Matter, or I'm not against I'm against the police beating people but I'm not for Black Lives Matter. And to me that just means that people don't understand the issue and don't understand how pervasive these issues are in the black community, and how black people, and how policing and how police terrorism and mass incarceration and black skin are inherently linked and have been linked since the inception of this nation and in the inception of policing. And that means, in my opinion, in Rockford, that means that we have an opportunity to teach people and an opportunity to enlighten people and to inform people. And I think that one of the things that happened last year is that there was moments in which, opportunities may have been missed to try to inform people and to enlighten people because of the raw emotion and the raw anger that a lot of people felt after May 30th, and a lot of people felt after watching the video of George Floyd. It's hard to anchor your anger in high stakes moments especially when you haven't been in those high stakes moments a lot, especially when those high stake moments are new to you. And so I think that it was, what's up? Taking it easy, y'all have a good one. I think that it was and I'm speaking for myself personally, it was very difficult for me to not be angry in certain situations after being falsely arrested week after week, after having already seen other people be falsely arrested on May 30th, after assaults happening, after police harassment happening. It got to a point where when I seen a black police officer out there, the first, I would have a megaphone and, all I would do would be yelling Uncle Tom or Coon, because I've stood by while these black officers allowed white officers to use unnecessary force on black women and use unnecessary force on black teenagers, and they've stood by to the side and done nothing. And these will be the same people. These will be the same people who told you that. These will be the same people who will say that they became police officers to change the problem and to fix the problem from the inside. All of these black police officers who was down at City Market and who was involved in these protests, policing the protest over the spring and the summer and the fall and even up to this date, all of these police officers would be the ones who told you that they became officers to be the change and to make change from the inside. And they had opportunities to make change when children was pepper sprayed at City Market for people walking on the crosswalk. They had opportunities to make change when when young women was being slung to the ground, or when young men were being slung to the ground. Some of them participated in these things, and so that's your chance to be the change. That's your chance to make the change. How many of these black police officers do you think is pulling over, is deciding to not use pretext stops to pull over young black men? Or how many of these police officers black police officers do you think is pulling over black men, searching their car and taking confiscating the guns and the drugs and telling them, sending them a email to a college professor and saying, go to school, stay off the streets. take this as a chance to change your life. Do you think that's something that's happening regularly? Do you think these are things that are realistic? People become police officers to get a paycheck. People become police officers because they have God complexes. People become police officers because they have ran out of options, or because people become police officers because they were bullied in school. People become police officers because they want a license to kill people, because they want to feel powerful. Police officers aren't superheroes. Police officers aren't civil rights activists. And it's not that all of these issues, because again, police officers are the foot soldiers for the root causes. They keep they are the arm and the power, the strength, I would say, that keeps the status quo at the status quo. And so it's not all just police officers. Aldermen are responsible. Mayors are responsible. Anybody who is an elected official who is quiet when any day that any elected official passes by quiet about these societal issues is a day that, in my opinion, that they are failing the constituents that elected them. They are failing the constituents that they are in that office for. Every day we should be speaking about these issues. Every day we should be speaking about issues of poverty and issues of addiction in the city. And we should be speaking about the treatment of unhoused folks by police officers in this city. And all of these issues should be a normal should be normal talking points. And one of the ways that they become normal talking points is that people who have platforms to speak about those issues and make them talking points, which is one of the things that, again, that the mayor had the opportunity to do. And that's why you can't, in my opinion, I won't, that's why I do these, the lives, and, I don't really look at the comments or respond to comments or nothing like that. And I just sort of do a stream of consciousness, because in the stream of consciousness, you can realize how intertwined a lot of these issues are and how interconnected a lot of these issues are, because they are built upon each other. There's not one without the other. There's no non-violent crime without violent crime. There's no, there's not this. You can't just get the dealers off the streets. The dealers and the addicts are intertwined with each other. You can't, robberies and poverty are intertwined with each other. Drug dealing and poverty is intertwined with each other. Unemployment and poverty is intertwined with each other. Unemployment and addiction is intertwined with each other. Unhoused, being unhoused and addiction and mental health and lack of physical health and lack of child. All of these things are tied to each other. And again, to bring it back to the disagreement that I've had with a lot of people when it comes to just the statement of Black Lives Matter, because there is no Black Lives Matter chapter in Rockford. There is no Black Lives Matter branch in Rockford. I'm part of the May 30th Alliance. The May 30th Alliance has been part of organizing things in Rockford. The Rockford Youth Abolitionists we're part of organizing things in Rockford. There's been other groups that have been part of organizing things in Rockford. There is no Black Lives Matter chapter. But the statement Black Lives Matter and how polarizing it is speaks to the specific issue that is at the center of this, at the center of the problems that we have in. And it's that people do not truly understand how disenfranchised and marginalized Black people have been in this nation, because it has been part of the nation's, it's been part of the institutionalization and part of the propaganda to make people not believe it, to make people not understand it. It's people who just now in 2021 believing that Black people that Black people really do deal with police brutality at a more alarming rate or at a higher rate than white people. And you have to qualify some of these things with percentage, because people like to use the numbers. Yes, in sheer numbers, white people, in sheer numbers, just about every group of people, Hispanic, white, or Asian, besides indigenous people, because of the genocide that has been perpetrated on them in this nation, every other group is going to that is numerically bigger than the Black population is going to have a number that is bigger. But the problem is that the percentage is bigger for black people. It is a bigger percentage of black people in poverty than white people. It's a bigger percentage of black people who get shot by the police than white people. It's a bigger percentage of black people who are falsely imprisoned for crimes. If you are black, you are 2 times as likely to be convicted of a murder you did not commit. These are all things that are because of institutionalizations that have happened. And you cannot fix institutionalization just with legislation. You cannot fix institutionalization and propaganda and culture, because some of these things have become culture norms. You don't just fix these things with writing new laws, with writing new policies, with getting body cameras. You have to fix these things by addressing those issues, by speaking on them. The mayor has to speak about these issues. You know, aldermen have to speak about these issues. State representatives have to speak about these issues, and not just speak about them when they have the power to fix them. You have to also speak about them when you are trying to galvanize people to have the power to fix them. And that's another thing that a lot of people do. I have a conversation with somebody and they want to speak about, what laws are you getting changed? What policies are you getting changed? And one of the things that we have to get to is we have to get to a place of, what does it matter if the policy changed and the laws changed if the people who have to push the button and enact that policy and enact those laws, if they won't do it? The Brown versus the Board of Education is the perfect example. For over a decade, and even for decades, and even in some cities still now, they're segregated cities. They're segregated schooling. What does it matter if you get the law changed and it does not matter if you can get the letter of the law changed if you do not have people that will enforce the spirit of the law. And that has been the problem as black people and as brown people in this society and in this community, is that you can get them to maybe even write on paper that they not supposed to do this, or they not gonna treat you this way, but we have not been able to get to the place to force that power for it to actually happen that way, for it to actually, are they trying to get the ban on chokeholds? It's all types of cities where it's bans on chokeholds, and police officers still put people on chokehold, and a police officer keep their job. And so we have to get to a place where when something is written that it can't happen, when it happens, it is force applied and leverage applied to have true consequences for those things. That's what we have to get to. What's up, my man? I'm doing all right. How you doing, dog? Oh, yeah? Y'all here turning up tonight? St. Patty's Day? No? No? Fuck St. Patty's Day? What you drinking? Dark, light? Right now. Everything? What's up? What's up? What's up? Now. I think they're gonna leave without you.
What's going on with this corner? What's up with that?
This man right here is named Denzel Duvant. He got assaulted over in Fairgrounds by the Rockford Police Department. He had a warrant.
I saw.
Yeah, you saw? Okay. Yeah. No, yeah, it is fucked up. His eye, he used to have 20/20 vision. Now he can't see out one of his eyes and shit. He gotta get glasses and contacts and shit. No gun, no weapon, unarmed, beat up while he was handcuffed.
How long have you been here?
We've been here for 161 days. We came here initially when Tyrus Jones got shot. Unarmed, no gun, he got shot in the back. And so, right now, I'm tentative to stay for a year. That's the plan. For me, at least. I appreciate it. Oh, he's being nice. He's being nice.
He's being nice. He's being so sweet. But Ricky, let's go. Come on.
Take it easy, man. I appreciate you.
You were so sweet.
Yeah, and so again, we need to have conversations. We got to have conversations and we got to have dialogue. I don't have no kind of I do my best every day, because sometimes we have some of these instances with these police officers and these microaggressions, and it is upsetting. But I do my best every day to not have no kind of hatred in my heart. I have been, shot in the face with pepper spray bullet. I have been held in a freezing cold cell for 12 hours in t-shirts and shorts for misdemeanor crime. I have been I have to go report to pretrial services on a weekly basis. I've been arrested in the Dollar General for just being black inside the Dollar General. But every day I fight to make sure I don't have no kind of hatred in my heart or no animosity in my heart, because I don't believe you can beat hatred with hatred. And so I try my best every day to get to that place of love and that place of empathy and that place of understanding and compassion. And so I want to speak to people, and I want to have dialogue with people, and I want to have open lines of communication with people, and especially with people who disagree with me, or especially with people who don't have the same thought patterns or same train of thoughts as me, because those are the people that I want to reach. I got to reach the people who don't understand what it's like to get pulled over, not because you breaking any kind of laws, but because of the color of your skin. I need to reach the people who don't understand what it's like to live in an area of town where it's a food desert, or where resources have been constantly deprived and nothing has ever been put back, or where you get exploited by all the places where you can buy items at, where things are marked up 25 cents more, or it's all the foods that's sold there is have negative impacts on your health, on your physical health and mental health. But so I want to speak about these things, but I also want to be informed about these things, and I want to be educated on these things. And I think that part of being educated is reading and reading and talking, but I think it's also applying some of those things that you read and talk about, and that's something that we've actively been doing. We haven't just been talking, we've been walking. And I say we, and I also mean I. Like, I haven't just been talking, I've been walking. Since May 30th, it ain't been a day where I did more talking than I did walking. I've always done more walking than talking, and that's purposefully. And I try to do more listening than I do talking, and that's purposely. Because I only have one set of answers. Everybody else got it's 9 billion other sets of answers out there. It's 9 billion other sets of questions out there. I only got one set. And so I want to hear what other people's opinions is. I want to hear what people agree with and disagree with. I want to hear what people may have false notions on, or false understandings on, so I can try to correct those things and try to give some better understanding to them. If you haven't watched the We the Man miniseries, go watch the We the Man miniseries. I have nothing to do with the production of it. Somebody else producing it, but it gives you a good explanation and a good rundown of some of the events that's happened here and the manner in which they happened. In the very first episode, you can see some of the just sheer unnecessary force that was used in the arresting that took place at City Market. You can see the sheer unnecessary force that was involved in the pepper spraying and the assaults that took place at the Back to Blue rally. And these are things that happened not like 10 years ago or 5 years ago. These are things that happened months ago that people are still traumatized by. People are still going to court cases for things that were things that people were falsely arrested for. Clear false arrest. I was arrested for a felony mob action for walking on a crosswalk. Sat in jail for a weekend for walking on a crosswalk because it was easier and more simple for the city to just try to deal with the protest and deal with the root causes of the protest. All right, man. We outside.